Hello, friends, in which I'm continuing the same topic which I discussed in my earlier session, that is, use of internet by terrorists or cyber terrorism. If you observe, the social media is playing a very pivotal role in our lives. So also in cyber terrorism. These people who want to spread their ideology relating to the to one religion, or they want to promote enmity against a particular religion, some ideology, they are also using Facebook like you, me, and any other normal person. So every minute Facebook is logged 6 million times worldwide. This is one statistics we have. In this 6 million times, there are number of people who are also logging in for their own purposes, and that is to promote cyber terrorism. If you can see this website or this account which is there in the Facebook, this is again relating to such kind of disturbing content. Yeah, I would like to tell you that after 2008, all terroristic activities which took place in India, there is a component of cyber terrorism. They have used internet for various purposes, starting from planning to communication to networking to fundraising. If you can see the third point, they have used encrypted messages in the mails while conversing or communicating with each other, because if a content is encrypted, it is very difficult to retrieve it. That is what is the reason for them for using this technology of encryption, and encrypted mails were sent in some of the terroristic activities. Then why internet is actively chosen for cyber terrorism? The internet is actually chosen by the cyber terrorists for raising funds, right? And why internet to raise funds? Because you can absolutely very successfully can maintain your anonymity, right? And web-based financial transactions are very safe for them because the servers are always located in some foreign country. Okay, the servers are always located in the foreign country, and this country where the attack has happened or terroristic activity is found, that country cannot take any action against that server which is found in some other foreign country. And internet based financial transactions are subject to very little regulation. And mostly these transactions happen in the form of cryptocurrency. 100% funding happens in cyber terrorism through cryptocurrency. And there is evidence that organizations like Al Qaeda, Hamas, Lashkar-e-Taiba, Hezbollah, they have been confirmed to extensively use the internet to finance their terrorist activities. This photograph, if you can see, an old woman is sitting there in a helpless condition. So this is how they try to create sympathy in the minds of common public and try to get funding from them. There are millions of websites found in the internet in this category, from where they are getting millions and millions of rupees. The next methodology which is followed by these terrorists, or this is how internet is used, is called as psychological warfare. Psychological warfare, or simply called as cyber. Okay, this cyber means what happens and how it is done. They conduct training programs. They upload videos. They keep giving some or other information with a kind of statements which are very inflammatory in nature. For example, if you can see here, this is a video on which actually in which that man who is found sitting in between was a journalist from US. He was beheaded on video, on camera actually. Those three terrorists, they beheaded him and killed him in Afghanistan, and this video was uploaded and found in one of those websites which was maintained by Al Qaeda. So this kind of videos are updatedly uploaded in their websites to inspire their people. Okay. So there is a person called as Anwar al-Awlaki, a fluent English speaker, and he has used the contemporary technology to communicate with a wide circle of people in the West. So, despite being banned from entering into UK in 2006, this man spoke in several places via video link in different venues in Britain. As far as five different venues, they had an evidence in Britain. So he gave a number of video link lectures in the East London Mosque during this period. Then there is another person, Abu Musab al Jarqawi. He has an Al Qaeda cell in Iraq, which is exemplary in its use of internet, especially through posting extensive footage of bombings, decapitate hostages, two just before 2 days just before they were executed. So I was talking about the psychological attack, right? How does it happen? It happens in many ways. One of that kind is you type, in some place, some name like Israel. So these people, these banned organizations, they have an enmity with Israel. So if you type Israel, you will get an answer that this country doesn't exist. Then you type something, you will get this kind of a message saying militant training is an obligation in every sane male mature somebody, whether rich or poor, whether studying or working, whether living in a country or some other country, right? Then it is either jihad or disgrace you choose. Then it is your freedom to ignite a fire bomb. Then you type Israel, you'll get a message it doesn't exist, right? This is a kind of psychological warfare which happens on a constant and consistent basis in the internet, okay? In the internet. They also run online journals. Let me show you one such online journal run by Al Qaeda. It's called as Spring. It contains articles which spreads their ideology and jihad and other issues. So we may think that online training is cannot be so impactful, right? It may not give such an impact as if it happens in the real world. No, this example, if you can see on the screen, this man Faisal Shahzad, he failed to successfully detonate a time bomb in Times Square, New York City, and he was admitted to be influenced heavily by Anwar al-Awlaki, whose videos were extremely convincing and were widely available online. And the next case which I want to show you here is Umar Farooq Abdullah Muttalab was significantly influenced by many fundamentalist Islamic chat rooms, and he attempted to detonate explosives hidden in his underwear on board a Northwest Airlines flight. So, this is how young and impressionable minds are spoiled, and they are training them online through internet, and that too very, very successfully. Now, how this internet is used by terrorists in India? So, almost after 2008, I have already explained to you that internet is being used extensively by the terrorists. So, the first kind of thing which we found in our country in the Taj Hotel attack was voice over internet protocol network. So, these terrorists, they were in possession of one satellite phones, and they were using this VoIP technology to communicate with each other. They were writing mails to each other. Okay, they were following Google alerts on the internet to keep a tab on the police movement, and then they have sharpened their movement and evaded entrapment. Actually, many terrorists were there present in the hotel, whereas all of us are aware of the fact that we could only arrest one person. They use this technology called as, or the terrorists are using one technology very popularly, and this is called as steganography. A bomb blast occurred in 2010 in Bangalore in a science fair. So, what happened in that science fair was there was a bomb blast and a professor died on the spot. When the case was investigated by the police department, they found a CD in the scene of offense. That CD consisted of Broche Varevarura, a song sung by one Balamurali Krishna, a Carnatic singer. So the CD entirely was filled with the same song. Initially, they thought this is just some musical album, but when it was decrypted by the cyber forensic expert, they found a content hidden behind the music album. What is that content? That content was giving information about that bomb which was installed there, how to operate it, how to operate the remote, from how much distance you can use the remote, what would be the extent of the explosion, like to what extent there can be deaths, how many people can die, what is the content or what are the ingredients of that bomb, right? All this information was found in that CD. So, hiding this kind of information behind a musical album or behind a photograph, this technology is called as steganography. This photograph which you are seeing here is Aishwarya Rai's photograph. A bomb blast occurred in Chandigarh where some 10 to 12 police personnel died. Again, in that scene of offense, also they found her photograph. Again, the same thing happened. When this photograph, a JPG file, was decrypted, they found some content relating to the bomb blast, how to bomb, where to bomb, what are the contents of the explosion, everything. This is a very, very recent case, let me tell you. All of us have to be aware of such kind of things. Though this cannot be called as a terroristic activity, but steganography was used here. It happened in Jabalpur just 2 months ago. Like a person has received the photo which you can see there, old man's photo. That photo he received on WhatsApp with a message, "Do you know this person?" So, out of curiosity, he just clicked it, and within few seconds, he lost 2 lakhs of rupees. How? Because when you click the photo, there is a malicious hidden software which got downloaded into your mobile and it has withdrawn money from your bank. Maybe his daily limit is 2 lakhs, so he lost that amount only. Had it been more, he would have lost more than 2 lakhs also, right? This is how steganography works. Then the next important technology you can see there is called as dead drops technology. So, what is this dead drops technology? One terrorist will type some information in the mail and he will save it in the draft box. The other person sitting in some country somewhere else, he will also have the password. So he'll open the mail and read the draft. This technology is called as, or modus operandi is called as dead drop technology. Why they are using this? Because whenever you transmit a particular mail or there is a transmission, you send a mail, there is a transmission. Whenever there is a transmission, there can also be an interception, right? The government agencies, by using some forensic tool, they can intercept and they can get the information. But when you just save it as a draft, when there is no transmission taking place, nobody can intercept, and this is the safest mode for them. Then, if you can have a look at the law relating to cyber terrorism in our country, what are the laws which are available? What are other rules and practices which are presently governing the act of cyber terrorism? The first point which I would like to bring home here is Section 69 of the IT Act. It deals with interception, monitoring, and decryption of the information. So, IT Act gives enormous powers to the central government to do all these activities, and Section 69 empowers them, right? That is why these kind of provisions are called as enabling provisions. Enabling provisions. Then we have another agency working for cyber intelligence. They collect intelligence about the attacks which are going to happen on various installations in India. This particular nodal agency is called as CERT-IN, Computer Emergency Response Team. This was made in 2003, and they keep giving directions to Department of Communications for removal of certain websites. If any website is present in the internet which has some information, that information, if it is going to be a threat to the national security or law and order situation, or any such kind of a problem is going to arise if you leave it open, they will immediately ask the government of India to block that particular website. And 24 by 7, they keep collecting information about these potential cyber attacks, or what it could be the consequences of it. They keep giving reporting to the government of India. Or certain works 24 by 7. Thereby, they keep giving intelligence to the government of India so that they can take some action in preventive in nature, which is preventive in nature. Then we have another law present and available in our country that is called as UAPA to deal with terrorism. Okay? Normal terrorism. Section 15 Unlawful Activities Prevention Act defines what is a terrorist act, right? The same definition you will find in cyber terrorism definition in the IT Act as well. Then there is a Freedom House report which was given in 2008, which is also relevant here. But apart from that, we have the provision relating to cyber terrorism available in the Information Technology Act. The provision is Section 66F. I want you to carefully look at this provision. How it defines cyber terrorism. The act, if you do a particular act with an intention to threaten the unity, integrity, security, or sovereignty of India, or to strike terror in the people or any section of the people, you carry out denial of service attacks, attempt to penetrate a computer source without authorization, introducing any computer contaminants, and it is likely to cause death, destruction of property, damage, or disruption of supplies and services. If a person does any such activity, that would be covered by Section 66F. Then there are two more provisions there. The second provision which I am dealing with in the same point is 84B. It says abetment to commit cyber terrorism is also an offense. So what is the meaning of the word abetment? Abetment means inspiring, instigating a person to commit offense, right? If I am asking one Mr. X, I am telling him, you go beat that woman. I am telling him. The moment I said so, I have committed an offense of abetment, right? Abetment means instigation, aiding, facilitating, like, X is beating Y with his fists. Then what I did? I took a AK-47 and I handed over to X. Then A has used it against Y, right? They are already fighting, but I facilitated him to commit the offense of murder. So I have committed the offense of abetment to commit murder. Then another provision which is very relevant here, which all of us need to remember, is 84C. That is attempt to make an offense. Like a person wanted to blast a bomb in a particular place, right? In a particular public place, that can be a cinema theater, that can be a hotel, that can be anything, right? But he tried, he has installed, but bomb did not explode. For some reason, okay, for some reason, somebody found out that there is a bomb. They gave an information to bomb squad. They came there. They defused it. So A tried to install a bomb. A tried for a bomb blast, but it did not happen. Even then, A is liable. He is liable for what offense? The offense of attempt to commit an offense of cyber terrorism, right? This is what is very important, which I wanted you to know as far as law is concerned. Then comes these provisions. I am trying to put all legal provisions in one slide so that you find it easy to access actually. The another provision is 69A. It gives powers to the central government to issue directions for blocking for public access of any information through any computer resource where it is expedient so to do in the interest of sovereignty and integrity of India. Okay. Then 69B, it deals with monitoring of traffic data or information. They have been given this power by the Information and Technology Act. Then we have DEIT, Department of Information and Technology, right? This department also is doing a lot of work in this area of cyber security, right? They keep making rules as to how to intercept a particular communication, right? Procedures or standard operating procedures were put in place by DEIT in 2009 for the first time in the form and shape of procedure and safeguards for interception, monitoring and decryption of information, rules and this is like detailed guidelines were given as to how to block websites, when to block the websites, and rest of the information. Then same kind of rules have been given by the DIT, that is Department of Information and Technology, in 2012, 13, 18, 20, 22, like time and again. And whenever it is required, the department is trying to deal with these new kinds of problems arising in the cyberspace, right? Though they are called as rules, they are almost having the enforcement of law. I want you to note down this. Now, India is at a special risk. Every country is facing this problem of cyber terrorism. So also India, but we are at a special risk. The International Monetary Fund, you might have heard about it, has pointed out that India has a huge risk of being home to terrorist financing. India is a member of the Multinational Financial Action Task Force, which is called as FATF, an intergovernmental organization which was founded in 1989 by the G7 countries, was created to develop policies to counter terror financing. Counter terror financing. Section 17 of the UAPA Act again makes raising funds an offense wherever there is a likelihood that they will be used for terrorist activities. That activity is earmarked as an offense by this particular act. So I have tried to explain how effectively, how impactfully internet is being used by the terrorists to commit cyber terrorism in this session, and also tried to explain the relevant provisions in the relevant laws. It is not just one law which is dealing with this act of cyber terrorism we have in our country. The first law is Information Technology Act, and then the BNSS, which is the General Criminal Law of this country, then Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, or UAPA, which is again a special legislation. Thank you so much for your patient hearing. So this is all what or I would like to, this is all what I wanted to share with you. Thank you very much.